session order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda, we have approval of the agenda. Second. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have new business. Discuss current plans for reopening of school for 2021 school year due to COVID-19.
Hello.
Hello.
Since we were having the special open session, we thought we would go through the plan that came out on Friday, and just hit some of the highlights and answer any questions you all may have. So I'm just gonna kind of flip through it as we talk about it. So, the first thing, it starts out with, keeping students safe. It talks about what we hear everywhere: hand washing, social distancing, face covers. There is a term in here called cohorts, and cohorts basically mean, if you think about a first grade class, we're going to keep those kids together all day long, so they're a cohort. In the middle school and high school, it's a bigger cohort because they're going from first hour to a second hour cohort to a third hour cohort. So we are going to establish seating charts and things and protocols that will help us do contact tracing a lot easier. And if you hear cohorts, that's what it's talking about, the group of kids in that area at that time. Hand sanitizer, we've ordered a lot of different types of disinfectants, and there's still some things that are on back order. We're hoping we get them by the start of school. If not, we have some things that we can use to make it through until they do arrive. Monitor your health, and then of course we're going to try as much as possible, when possible, because of the heat here in August and September. Being outdoors, it's good for that fresh air you get out of the mask. We were just talking about that with Mrs. Reisinger at work. So those are the kind of things we're really looking at and working on. We need families and our staff members to daily screen before they come to school. If they have a fever of 100 degrees or higher, we're going to ask them to stay home. And if you look in Appendix A of the plan, there's a really nice checklist that you can go through with all of the symptoms and just daily look at it. Ask your child the questions. If you're a staff member, ask yourself. And if you don't have any of these symptoms, then you should be good to go. But that will need to be done daily. I have a thermometer. I'm getting in the habit of every day checking my temperature when I get up. My daughter is an athlete. I've been doing the same thing with her. You have to get into practice. So I find it easiest when you get up in the morning to go do it. So that would be my suggestion to families. Visitors, we are going to ask that you fill out a health screening questionnaire when you come in. We are asking all visitors to make an appointment before they come in so we can be prepared and know they're coming. Visitors must wear a face covering when they're inside the building. All of our offices we have, or we're working on installing plexiglass barriers on the counters. We're doing the same in our libraries and in our nurses' offices. So we have put those measures in place. There is a page in here, page 6, where it talks about how to properly wear and wash a mask. In every classroom, we will have a gallon of hand sanitizer, a bucket of disinfectant wipes. We are going to strongly promote and encourage and have students hand wash more often throughout the day, which is always a great practice, no matter if it's COVID related or not. We are going to have a supply of masks for those students who forget theirs, so they can wear our masks during the day. We ask, and they wear them home, we ask them to return them to us, and we'll take those back, and we're going to wash them ourselves, even if they do wash them at home. So we will have a supply that people can borrow and return. We have put out on social media and asked people who would like to donate masks to the school district that we are accepting those. So if anyone has masks that they would like to donate, we would greatly appreciate it. It would definitely help our supply.
Will you accept these for donations too?
Yes,
Okay, so.
yes, because we will have those in entryways and at sporting events if we're able to do events. So if someone comes in without a mask, they can grab one quickly and then just take it with them and throw it away.
Oh, okay.
But we do have a supply, and that's our plan right now, of disposable. The reusable, we're really using more for our kids
Kids.
than anyone else. Water fountains, we have covered all of the spigots that you drink out of, and we're going to ask students to bring their own water bottles. We have water bottle fillers in most major areas in all buildings. I mean, they're accessible to all students. We put a big order in on Thursday or Friday to get, because we can easily outfit some of our water fountains to put the top piece on so they have a water bottle filler. We can't do all of them because the older water fountains, we would have to completely tear out a wall, redo the plumbing. We are going to have to do a couple of those at Bloomsdale because I think there's currently one water bottle filler. We just ordered a second one that we can fit pretty easily, but we will have to tear out a couple of more, probably once school starts, to get that taken care of. So, I wanted to let people know, encourage your child to bring their own water bottle and not share it with anyone. That's the hard part sometimes. We are going to require face masks on the bus, in the hallways, anytime you can't social distance. For our bus drivers, we've talked to Pollard Bus, and they have talked to Bob.
We put them in contact with Bob Klinder, the health inspector, as well as Lisa Engel, the occupational health person over at the hospital. We're having those two in to talk to our faculty and staff related to health and safety in general, and then health and safety in the workplace. So I was talking to Mike Jokers last week and gave him those names, and I'm going to touch base with him again this week to see. He was planning on having them come to their an additional meeting before a big back-to-school meeting with the bus drivers, so that it didn't end up too long. But that's in the works as well.
Mm-hmm. So we are going to offer some training to our staff and the bus drivers. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the instructional options at each building. So that starts on page 12. Grades kindergarten through 5th grade. The committee that made the decision on what we were going to do at each grade level chose to add a traditional 5-day-a-week model because we understand that parents may have a problem with daycare because it's difficult to find daycare in this community normally. So we are going to try a traditional 5-day model. We also offered a virtual option where their child could be educated 5 days a week virtually. Those classes are going to be taught by our staff members. I know the elementaries, I think they have all of those teachers down, who's going to do the virtual, who's going to do the blended, who's going to do the 5-day traditional. And then, of course, the blended, where they'll be here either 2 to 3 days a week, and then they'll be home either 2 to 3 days a week. So I'll just add, with this building, we're starting with this traditional model, but if we start to have an outbreak and we can't keep all of the kids here, we may have to move those kids to a blended model just to maybe try to keep the building open and students coming part-time. So, I don't want to surprise anybody with that, but, we want to do everything we can to at least have students here sometimes. But these are the models we're going to start with right now, but I just wanted people to really think about that.
And this is K through 5?
Kindergarten through 5.
Okay.
If you chose virtual, or AMI, for your kindergarten through 5th grade student, August 19th from 1 to 4, and August 21st from 9 to noon, we're gonna check out your Chromebooks ahead of time before school starts. So please call the office where the building, call the office where your child will be attending and make arrangements with those staff members so you can come in and pick up your child's Chromebook. Building supply lists for the elementary and the middle schools are in this plan in Appendix B. Students this year who are going to do a blended are traditional, where they're here on campus. They are going to take their Chromebooks home and bring them back. We've never done that before. Elementary Chromebooks traditionally have stayed in the classroom, but we feel it's important right away to start sending those home and having some homework on those Chromebooks, just in case we do have to go completely virtual again for a period of time. The students know how to log in, they know how to get to they know how to use their device. So we are going to do that right away and try to get them used to the machine. We are going to offer Dragon's Den after school at both elementaries. For the first child, it's $120. For the second, or any child after that, it will be $80. They are working on their open house formats. We anticipate they're all going to be virtual, but be on the lookout for information because we're still working through all of that and trying to make sure that we can get connected with our parents. Buildings will open at 7:15 every day. Buses will not drop off this year until 7:45. So that should back your child's pickup time if they have to ride a bus. It should back their pickup time 10-15 minutes. We're just going to push it back. At the elementaries, we'll continue to do breakfast in the classroom, and for lunch and recess, we're going to do a modified schedule where there's only one class in the cafeteria at a time, if I remember correctly, so we can space them out. At St. John Elementary, we are, like at 10:35, going to add another grade level, but we're going to have to use the lower portion of the high school, middle school cafeteria to get them spread out. But doing that, we're able to keep them in the cafeteria for lunch and spread them out as much as possible. Well, socially distance them so they can get out of their classroom and eat lunch. And we're not going to be able at this time to do field trips. The health department didn't think that was wise for us to do that. So that is just a brief summary of our elementary plans.
So if the students choose the AMI, or if they're doing the alternative, like the virtual part of the time at the elementary level, they're required to be in front of the computer between 8 and 3, is that correct, Doc? Or?
With the elementary, there's going to be a little leeway.
Well, you mentioned daycare, but unless the daycare facilities are going to set up a classroom setting for kids that age, I'm just, trying to figure that out, how that would look for most parents.
Well, our thought was that the families who had issues with daycare were going to send them in a traditional setting so that they had that option. Those students doing blended, we anticipate them being in a home setting. And our blended and our AMI teachers, it's going to be a feeling out time frame, right? We did shut down in March, and we do have an idea of what it should look like, but there weren't the requirements in March that they are going to be met. So it's going to look different.
Parents don't think it's going to go back to what it was at the end of the school year instead of having that requirement for them to be
Right.
in front of the computer.
And that's going to be dependent upon grade level and upon teacher. They're going to, schedule. We're going to be back on a Zoom meeting at 11. Then I'm going to assign this and have you work on this. So yeah, it's anticipated to be an 8 to 3. I don't think sitting there the entire time for a kindergartner or a first grader is a great idea, and I don't know that they'll do that. There'll be some downtime and they'll schedule it from here.
Any other elementary questions?
So you've got 3 options for elementary. Is you going to be able to staff it all, or how are you going to work all that out?
Well, when we go to closed session, we're going to fix some of those staffing issues.
All right.
And I'll talk about those in just a minute. But at the elementary, we have an at-risk teacher in first grade. And so we're going to pull that at-risk teacher, and she will have a classroom of her own to help reduce class sizes. And we're also going to reassign a special education teacher who had a smaller workload, and she's going to have a classroom by herself. And so those special ed kids she works with will shift to the other special education teachers that we have. And at St. John Elementary, that will take care, we think, and try to create some smaller class sizes. Teachers at the elementary, really throughout the district, we've asked them if they have like rugs or pillows or couches or anything with a plush finish to take all of that home for now. We've also asked them that if there's furniture in their classroom that is impeding social distancing, to put their name on it, and we will try to figure out where we can store all of that. So we'll find places to do it. But for now, we need to make sure we try to social distance as much as possible. Are we always going to be able to do the 6 feet? No, and I don't want parents to think we are, but we're going to make every attempt, and when we can't, we're going to ask them to wear the mask if they come.
You had said something about kindergarten through fifth is preschool and the same type of stuff.
Preschool, I'll get to preschool. It has its own page in here. It's a little bit.
I know you had said in spring of last year, we had pretty good numbers as far as internet access in the county. And I know the plan said if you select this, you need internet access. But if anyone has a problem, can they call the district?
Yes. Call the building principal and talk to them. My best guess is they'll probably direct them to Nancy Toombs. We do have 5 hotspots that we can check out. And I do believe that part of the governor's CARES Act money is going to be somehow filtered to schools to help with connectivity, but I really haven't got the information on that to understand what we're going to have to do to get the funding, what our options are to use the funding on. That just kind of came out later last week.
Can you talk about the library?
Our county library, Mr. Long, Sean Long, they're working on a grant to provide more connectivity in our community too. I believe it was progressing along. I haven't heard any updates.
No, not really.
Not really. But I know that the library and Mr. Long are working through that. So that may help us. Then we'll go to the middle school, high school. When this group met and talked about options, they had concerns. So about offering a 5-day traditional model. We know older kids, specifically kids that can drive, are going to work. We know that they're going to graduation parties. We know that they are going out socially. So our staff members had concerns if a lot of them chose the 5-day traditional model, how would they even, with the bigger bodies in their classroom, even be able to social distance some of those students? So in the middle school, high school, we're offering 2 options. Virtual, 5 days a week, EAMI, or blended, meaning they're here 2 days in person and they're home 3 days a week. So the model that they're choosing and how they're setting this up is Group A, who will come on Monday, Wednesday. Group B comes on Tuesday, Thursday, and everybody is virtual on Friday. And Friday, staff will be here on campus unless there's a medical condition or something that they really need to stay away and stay at home and do their virtual instruction at home. But Friday, there'll be planning time, there'll be meetings, just a variety of things that teachers will have to be doing with their kids and prepping for the next week. Looking here. For the middle school, Group A, let me check real quick. It's the same for Middle school and high school, they're gonna group them a little bit different. So I'm sure they'll get that information out to parents soon. Of course, if parents have, like a middle school and a high school child, and they need to try to schedule them on the same day, so they're here at school together, and then they're at home together, and they don't have a younger child by themselves, they need to call their building principals and talk to them, so they can work with them and make sure that they're here on the same days and at home on the same days learning. Middle school and high school students who are going to go completely virtual and do AMI learning, again, can pick up their Chromebooks on August 19th from 1 to 4 and August 21st from 9 to noon. And remember, all the buildings set up an appointment to make that pickup. So you'll get your Chromebook just like the elementary students before school starts. The middle school and high school buildings, again, will open at 7:15. Buses will arrive at 7:45. Breakfast is a little bit tricky when you're dropping middle school and high school kids off at 7:45. So what we're going to do is the breakfast cart will be available in the high school before school. After first hour, it will be in the middle school, available for middle school students between first and second hour to come grab breakfast. And I'm sure the teachers will work with them, letting some out early for first hour and come in late second hour. And then the breakfast cart will go back to the high school, so after second hour, if kids want breakfast, they can come and get it. The high school's first lunch shift doesn't start until 12, right, 12? So that's why it's going in middle school first. Their lunch shift starts at 11, around 11-ish. And then the high school, some of those kids don't eat until 1 o'clock. So we thought that was a good option. Since we're talking about half the population, they will use the cafeteria, the high school commons, and let the kids go outside and eat on nice days. That way we can get the students spread out for lunch, and they don't have to, again, sit in the classroom and not be able to get out and spread out. When you talk about the high school, we also have to look at Perryville Area Career and Technical Center. If a student wants to go AMI or St. John and do virtual learning, but they do want to do Perryville, they are going to have to go to Perryville for those classes. So those students who are signed up for Perryville Area Career and Technical Center who are uncomfortable going down there for classes, they need to contact their high school counselor so we can do a schedule change. Unfortunately, to do a career and technical center, you really need to be there and hands-on. So they really need to go. Okay. Any questions on the middle school, high school?
So the 2 days they're not present, they're still learning those 2 days, but from home.
Yes. Yes. It's not that they just go to school 2 days a week. It's 5 days of learning. So, I think there's going to be a variety of models. When a teacher needs you in a class and you're actually at home, they may have you Zoom in or whatever they're using for a specific period of time. But like we talked about earlier, will they be on their computers from age 3? We don't think so. But there may be times that they actually have to virtually join a class here on campus in order to obtain the information. But they'll be working outside of school on those days they're not here. It's 5 days of learning, no matter what you choose.
And that's why I noticed the packet, reiterated attendance policy is still current.
Yes.
Be there every day that not only you're present, but if you're required virtually, that's a day of attendance.
Yes. That's true.
So we're going to talk about the athletes and how that's going to work, especially like for the middle school, if they're at home on like Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and they're playing football, are they supposed to be able to get to campus by 3 o'clock to go to sports?
I would think so. Yes. But we'll talk about athletics. Okay. Let's skip over the You know, I think what I heard today is if there's a 5% breakout in your building, you'll need to close. If you do the math, and let's say 1,800 kids, I didn't include the staff in the calculations. If we have 90 students who test positive for the virus, we will have to close the school. Now, we're also going to look at that on a building-by-building basis. If we have a 5% breakout at the middle school with a lot of students and staff contracting the virus and we need to close for 2 or 3 weeks, we may close the middle school for 2 or 3 weeks, but if we can, keep the other buildings open. It's going to be very fluid, and I think it has to be. Because what would be the point in sending elementary kids home if there's not a whole lot of breakout and the breakout's happening in the different building? So it's just going to be interesting.
Unless it's unless it's siblings.
Yes. And of course, if we do have to close a building, then everything transitions to AMI or virtual. Learning doesn't stop just because you're home. It will transition, and like we talked about at our last meeting, this is very different from what happened in the spring. There are deadlines, there are things that have to be done, and there are grades that will be earned and assigned throughout every virtual instruction or AMI series that we have. So I want students and parents to be very aware of that. It's very different. So we're going to pace and try to keep up with everything that is actually happening in a classroom. We're going to treat it like it's an in-person class. Use our pacing guides and go from there.
So Dr. Fleet, will you let the parents know at open house about it? Well, they probably already come. You'll let them know, they know that every year, but you'll let them know that. So they can't come back and say, well, I didn't know that these grades were going to be counted or,
We've said it, it's in all of the communication that we've gone out. Has gone out.
I know I talked to some, and I'm not sure if I don't think they took it seriously. And I let them know that it was very serious. These are grades that are going to count.
Yes. So, I'm sure our virtual teachers will
Oh, I'm sure.
lay it out. So. Okay, the next thing is the preschool. Right now, we're offering full-time, part-time, and a fully opt-out option. Families who are already in but don't really want their children to attend now can let us know that they don't plan to send them, and then we can fill the spot with another one. So we are going to offer our preschool programs and do the best we can. Special education, if your student has an IEP or a 504, the instructional options presented from each building, they apply to all students, including your child. If you need to talk to someone or you have questions about how that's going to work with your child's IEP, talk to their caseworker and they can work through any concerns or questions that you have. Okay? For any student who is AMI, whether they're full virtual or they're doing the blended learning and it's their virtual day, they're not on campus, if they want to come and get lunch and breakfast, we're going to do a grab and go meal with them also. The difference is from March to May, we applied and were approved, our application was approved to offer free meals to anyone in the community who was 18 or younger. And so we were able to offer those free to anyone in that age range because of that application and that approval process. That application is no longer effective. So if you come to do our grab and go meal, they have to be a student at St. John R2, and you have to bring their lunch card so we can scan it. Of course, students who are on free and reduced lunches will have the free and the reduced lunch rate. breakfast rate if they come, and they keep the grab and go. But, you know, unfortunately, we can't offer that free to everyone anymore. It has to be to our students, and they're going to have to pay for it. Okay? Extracurriculars and athletics. We've been having our athletes for quite some time do an online daily screening form. They take their temperature, they answer those questions, yes or no, and then they submit it. All the forms go to their coaches, and their coaches review them. So we've been doing that with them. We are also making our athletes sign a waiver. Athletics aren't a requirement. Mission sanctioned activities are optional for kids to choose to participate in or not. So we're making them sign a waiver that they understand the risk they're taking by participating. So we will continue that throughout the year, as long as we have all of these guidelines in place because of the virus. I'm looking through here. In the reopening document, we asked those athletes to bring their own water bottles. But Mr. Nix shared over the weekend that Mid-America Rehab is donating enough water bottles for all our fall athletes to have their own bottle. So he's going to probably figure out a way to put jersey numbers or something on the bottles so the kids aren't cross-contaminating and using someone else's bottle. Although Misha says that virtual students can participate in activities, at St. John, we're still holding to, if they don't come to school even part of the time, blended 2 to 3 days a week, then we do not think it's appropriate for them to come on campus and go to practice with the same students that they would be sitting in class with. We also feel, the committee that discussed this, there's even a greater potential of exposure for an athlete because they're going to be traveling to other communities and competing with other kids. So, the committee felt very strongly that if they chose the AMI fully virtual option, then they could not participate in athletic program, in-person mission sanctioned activities. And we did add the in-person because we found out speech and debate, which is under mission guidelines, will be virtual this year. And our speech and debate sponsors felt it was appropriate for students who chose to do virtual to also do virtual competitions. So we did add that in-person piece in case there are other activities that have a virtual option. And then the last thing I was going to share on athletics, you may have to ask the question, John, because I can't think of what it was.
Well, I'm just thinking, well, because I have a grandson that plays football, and I'm not sure how he could get here by 3 o'clock, you know, to come to practice now. He could be here at 3:45 for practice. That probably wouldn't be a problem because his mom would be off work, but she's going to have to pick up the granddaughter here first. I don't know. I'm just thinking that could be a headache for anybody who's not driving yet.
Right.
To get here on a virtual day.
Do the athletes, especially middle, I'm trying to remember middle school football, because that's quite interesting to see after school. Because they change and then they walk down to the football field. But I don't think they get started until, is it 3:30?
It's usually right around 3:30.
So I would suggest, you know, if you have someone in that situation, to contact the coach and make the arrangements that can. And then the last thing I was going to talk about on athletics, we are in the process of working on guidelines and limitations, if you will, for our spectators at sporting events. We talked about it with the MAAA today, MAAA schools, to see if they would want to develop a conference document. And I think there are a couple that are wanting to work on it with us, so we're going to work on that potentially Wednesday and Thursday. You know, if you think of a Friday night football game here in this community, that's a lot of people, and that is something that our administrative team could not manage well, especially with little kids running everywhere. So we feel it's important to put some limitations on the number of people that can be inside and outside. The way way we're thinking about doing that right now is we're considering doing a number of tickets per athlete. That way, the athlete will get the tickets, the ticket needs to be brought, you come to pay the gate and come in. If you don't have a ticket, you won't be able to get it. That's the initial thought, that's not set in stone, so I'll, look for the document, we're hoping to have that out in the next week or so.
Most of the sporting events are broadcast virtually.
Yes, thank you. We do live stream most of our high school events, and I believe Dr. Mercer and Mr. Haney were going to try to figure out a way that maybe we can live stream. It may not, there may not be commentators this year as much as we have in the past, so just to be able to show it, and that way people can see it if they can't be there in person. Yes?
Yeah, football fans who don't have children or grandchildren in school, how are you gonna accommodate them?
They have to have a ticket.
And that kid,
They have to have a ticket
for a ticket,
from an athlete, yes,
from an athlete.
I know.
What about some of the football boosters who get the free passes to go, they still have to get a ticket from that?
And the athlete is gonna be limited to.
Yeah, the point is to make sure we can limit the number of people in one place at one time. And so we'll ask, like if my daughter gets 6 tickets, and there are 6 of us that come to the event, we would make sure to sit with the family members or the friends, whoever came with us, to try to be in your family cohort, if you will, and distance away from other people as much as possible.
And people coming from outside the district, how would you?
We're going to communicate the limitations, initially, this, again, initial thoughts, we're going to communicate the limitations to those schools, send them the tickets, and they can give them to their athletes. And again, they have to, it's not a ticket to get in, it's a ticket to actually pay for the game.
So whatever that plan is, will be communicated out to radio stations.
Posted on our social media pages, and yes, in writing. But yes, we're still working on it, that's just some of our initial thoughts.
Well, and it's not like they're not going to see it, it's just they won't be able to.
Right, yes, like I said, we're gonna live stream as much as we can. Because the support, for our kids is amazing.
Absolutely.
The live stream is wonderful. My sister-in-law in Texas got to watch my kids do sports. She couldn't be here, but she got to see it, so that's been really neat.
I get to do that with my granddaughter, and it is exciting.
Yeah.
Probably jumping the gun here, but are the individual instructors working on classes like band, choir, shop, and what those are gonna look like?
Yes. Yes, and I think next week, Monday and Tuesday, there's going to be a lot of work done on Monday and Tuesday. I know there's work being done now, we know that, but they're going to have time on those 2 days to really dig into it as a team and get through it all, hopefully. So that's a summary of the reopening plan document that came out on August 7th. I'll just remind everyone, this is version 1. This will constantly be changed and updated. So as those come out, we will make sure to share them and notify everyone.
Really should thank the committee for getting together on their off time to work through some of this stuff. All the administrators, Dr. Green, Dr. Flea, Eliotto have spent an inordinate amount of time putting this document together and making sure everything's right. Gina Lytle, Health Department, hospital staff. It has been a whole lot of people getting together to come up with version 1 of this document. It's going to have to be adjusted, it's going to have to be tweaked, and when we see problems, we'll adjust and we'll tweak, but the amount of work that those people put into this document is just tremendous. They did a fantastic job. I want to thank them very much.
Just want to throw a few thank yous out there. First to you guys and our staff, just sitting here listening you know, I know there are districts out there right now that are struggling to find Chromebooks. We've had, you know, Chromebooks for years, and the communications director, that was at your suggestion. We have a 24-hour janitorial crew that helps solve a lot of problems, I would imagine. And then we just mentioned the live stream sports, so I feel like we're out ahead of a lot of things that some other districts are battling. And thank you to those folks who are making mass donations, water bottle donations. And I read recently there's a parent at one of our schools who is buying the majority of school supplies for every kid in that building this year. So we have a wonderful community and a wonderful district. And even though I know, as Dr. Taylor said, everyone needs to prepare for this and prepare to change this, it's a tremendous plan. So thank you guys very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, next we have addition of a Bloomsdale Elementary Assistant Principal, Instructional Mathematics Coach position effective for the 2020-2021 school year.
Yes, so I wanted to go over the plan first, because I know how much time Dr. Taylor, Dr. Green, Ms. Otto, Nurse Gina, how much time we all spent trying to manage what has happened since March until now. And I'm very thankful to have all of these people on my team to help me manage through it. At Bloomsdale Elementary, we have a building principal who's going to have to manage all of these learning options and try to get all of this laid out by herself. We believe that putting a part-time assistant principal in that building will greatly help her, especially as she manages the learning options. She tries to assist teachers and parents, and it's a lot. I can't imagine how she's going to do it by herself. So we're recommending a part-time, if you will, assistant principal. The other portion of this is the instructional mathematics coach position. We currently have Mrs. Andrea Fritsch as our instructional mathematics coach. She works with grades kindergarten through 5th grade at St. Genevieve Elementary and Bloomsdale Elementary. We thought with this position, this person could take on the 1st and 2nd grade instructional mathematics coaching at Bloomsdale Elementary, and that will free up Mrs. Fritsch to focus more on the grade level testing areas, 3, 4, and 5, and also give her some support and someone to talk to as she works through curriculum and manipulatives and the workstations and things like that for math. So in creating this position, the trickle-down effect will be we'll have a teaching position open that will fill in closed session. And that person will assist with keeping class sizes smaller. We're also going to, in closed session, fill, we never filled Mrs. Sherry Coons' position when she retired. We're also going to make a suggestion to fill that position to assist with reducing class sizes in that building. So this position, along with those other 2 teaching positions, will give that building, those parents and those students a lot more support as we try to navigate the AMI, the blended and the traditional learning, and then all of those other things we just talked about in this reopening plan, and we have to transition from this plan to this plan to this plan. So that would be our recommendation.
I move to approve the addition of assistant principal, instructional mathematics coach at Bloomsdale Elementary for the 2020-21 school year.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Cody, have you heard any updates on state funding? I saw that July was better.
I did a webinar, and it's still the same old, well, we think it's going to be okay, but the state has to shut down again, then the casino closed, and then we lose classroom trust fund. So everyone is still optimistic that it will turn around, but there's still no solid plans yet. I did work on the tax rate information, so I'll have that ready for the hearing on the 25th. So I'm working on budget still. But, you know, still optimistic, but very cautious, still being very conservative.
Thank you. Next, we have action for a closed meeting.
I move that the Board of Education hold a special closed meeting on closed record and closed vote following the special open meeting on August 10, 2020 to be conducted at the R.W. Thomas Library, 715 Washington Street, St. Genevieve, Missouri, for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees. I further move that the notice of this meeting is tentative agenda be posted as required by law.
Second?
Now, motion and second roll call, Ray Bosmer,
Yes.
David Bova,
Yes.
Joan Hook,
Yes.
Jim Kirchner,
Yes.
Harry Daniel, yes, Martin Reesinger,
Yes.
Richard Rudolph,
Yes.
motion carried, 7-0.
I'll need to go to a special closed session with a closed record and a closed vote after a short break.
Second?
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 6:16.